Hey guys, thanks for stopping by. If you like my video, please like and subscribe. Also check me out on Twitch as Floyd Mason.
Hello. Welcome back, Spooks fans. We're back again. We are back, and we are on to book number 9, Welcome to Camp Nightmare. Ooh, get some bad glare there on it. There we go. Yeah, pretty cool cover. Kind of the creeping hand guy here, a little camping. I like the coloring of this one. The sky, the back is pretty nice. And again, I have the reprint of it as well, which again, these ones are basically the same cover. But I like how they continue the purple. I feel like you get even a little more sky, which is nice. So that's actually one of the books where I feel like the remake cover is kind of on par with the original. Again, usually I don't like how in these ones they kind of have like the all the way around. I don't think it looks as nice. It's kind of the cutoff, but that looks pretty good. So yeah, welcome to Camp Nightmare. So this, I do have my notes written down, of course, because I cannot remember the order of everything happens. And this one especially, I feel like I always jumble up the order of stuff in this one, and I feel like this book has like the most characters so far. Usually the books consist of one or two people. Usually they're unnamed parents. It's usually like siblings, unnamed parents, maybe a friend, and then kind of maybe the villains. So I mean, probably Welcome to Dead House, just because they had all the kids, is another one with a lot of characters. But so there's quite a few. But the main character in our story is Billy. And basically, Billy is on his way to a summer camp called Camp Night Moon. So the book kind of starts off with them in the bus, and then you meet some of the other friends. So you have Jay, who's pretty loud and cocky. You have Colin, who just seems like very cool, and then you have Mike, who's nervous. They do make another friend a bit later, named Roger, who's a bit of a prankster. And that's kind of the main kids. There are some more later. We'll get to them when they're introduced. But those are kind of the main ones. And he kind of is hanging out with, I think he's sitting beside Mike on the bus. But, so they're on the bus, and basically they're kind of going on and talking about the night moon, and no one's been before, and all this stuff. And the driver gets to just some random point, and just goes, yep, like, here we are, like, everyone get out. And just kicks all the kids off the bus, and they're in the middle of nowhere. So, they're kind of like, oh, what's going on? You're kind of like, oh, where are they? And there's something lurking around, and an odd creature kind of attacks them. And then, out of nowhere, becomes Uncle Al, who is kind of the head person of the camp, and scares it off with a gun. Yeah, so he's there to meet them. They have to walk to their bunks. I believe at this time, the girls are also there. I think they're on the bus, and their names, I think it's like Deborah and Dory, something like that. But they go, and there's a female camp as well. Like, I think it's also Camp Night Moon, but it's kind of like the female camp that's across the lake. So basically, they get back. They meet their counselor Larry, who could care less about them. In reality, this book has an episode as well. And I think the guy who plays Larry is so perfect for it. Like the whole episode's cast. Like, again, we're not ranking episodes, but like the episode's really good. It differs from the book a bit. It mixes up the characters a little, and there's a little more action and stuff that doesn't really happen. But I think that it's really well cast. Billy's really good. The guy who plays Roger, who's kind of the prankster guy, he was in a couple of other shows and stuff. He's pretty funny, and the camp and Larry is really well cast as well. But yeah, basically you get there, they're told to unpack, and when they're getting Mike's bed ready, they realize there's a snake in it. At first they're like, oh, it's gotta be fake, and it's a real snake. Jay kind of jokingly pushes Mike, who falls into the bed and gets bit. So then he starts kind of freaking out. The other guys, I think it's Colin and Billy, kind of wrap it up in the sheet and take it outside, kind of throw it away. they show Larry. Larry's like, they're like, oh, like Mike's hand's swelling up, like he's been bit. He's panicking, and Larry, and we got to take him to the nurse. And Larry's just like, there's no nurse here. So again, just kind of doesn't care. It's like, oh, just deal with it. Like, this is Camp Nightmare. Just suck it up, kind of attitude. So next, they're kind of having dinner. They're just at the dinner bunk, and Al's kind of introducing to everything. Tells them about the forbidden bunk, and how nobody's allowed to go to it. Like it's forbidden. It's off bounds. Somebody mentions that they've heard noises coming from it. It's kind of this haunted thing, and the boys start talking about how they want to go. I think it's at this dinner that they meet Roger as well, and him and Jay kind of get along because they're both kind of just loud, obnoxious, and they start talking about going to see it. And Colin's pretty interested, and Billy's kind of on the fence about it. Mike doesn't want to go at all, but he's kind of focused on the pain. At around this time too, Larry also tells them about Saber, who is this red-eyed beast that lives in the forest, and they shouldn't be going out at night because it's dangerous, and Saber's out there and he'll destroy you. Where am I in here? Yeah, so next day they start just kind of doing some regular camp things. They're playing a game called Scratch Ball. Sounds a lot like baseball, and Billy's pretty good at it. So he starts to have fun. He's like, okay, maybe it's a thing. Like maybe it's just an unfortunate accident. Larry and Uncle Al are weird, but that's just maybe how they are, and whatever. And during the game, Larry and Colin start arguing about some plays and whatnot, and Larry ends up throwing a ball that hits Colin. I think he throws a ball. I think it's a ball. He hits him in the head, and Larry's like, "Oh my god, I didn't mean to do it. It slipped." All this stuff, and Billy is convinced that Larry did it on purpose. So Colin is now fairly injured. I think he gets knocked out for a minute, and Larry's just like, "Oh no, accident." But Billy is now very much like, "Oh, Larry did it on purpose. I need to watch out for this guy. He is not to be trusted." So he's kind of sent away. I was wrong before. So this is where we meet Roger. So now they're hanging out, and Roger comes into the picture, and him and Jay, and so they're kind of they're messing around, and they make a mess on Billy, and Billy goes back to change in the cabin, and that's when he realizes that all of Mike's stuff is gone. So Mike had kind of been feeling sick. They'd kind of sent him off. I think Big Al kind of took him. He's like, okay, we'll go get you checked out. And then Billy comes back and realizes he's gone. At this point, too, I don't know if it's exactly this point, but next time he sees Larry, Larry's just like, who's Mike? Like, I have no idea who you're talking about. And they're just kind of denying his existence, which just kind of makes Billy go a bit mad. So now he's starting to get really worried. He doesn't trust Larry at all. He knows Mike was there, and he's gone, so he's kind of panicking about that. And at this point, Roger and Jay decide they're going to go to the Forbidden Bunk. So they're trying to convince the other ones to go. Initially, Colin had been up for it, but he's pretty out of it from being hit with the ball, so he declines. He's like, I don't think I should. I don't think I can. Billy also is just like, no, we shouldn't do it. Like, I don't think we should. I think they're out at some kind of event at night, so the two of them just sneak off, Jay and Roger, to go check it out, and they just kind of hear them giggling as they walk through the bunks. It was tent night, so they're all staying out overnight in the tents. So two of them sneak off because they think it'll be easier. Obviously the counselor's not going to be in your tent, so they can just pretend like they were there. They sneak off. Billy and Colin decide too that hey, this tent night sucks. Colin especially is very out of it still. So they're going to sneak back to their own bunk and just sleep there. Because again, who's going to know? As they're running back, all of a sudden they hear some screaming, and then Jay comes running up, and he says that Roger got attacked. He thinks it was by Saber, and he was just torn to shreds. So Jay's freaking out. Roger's nowhere to be seen. I think they walk over and kind of in that area, and they find a bunch of... I think they find blood. Trying to remember if that's in the book or if they kind of note it. And then again, they tell Larry, who doesn't believe them. He goes over there. He finds nothing. And Jay is definitely pretty shaken. And then he starts again, similar to Mike, claiming that there was no Roger. So at this point, Larry's like, "What is going on here? Like, clearly something's up. They're hiding stuff." At this point, he's pulled in by the girls, and they've kind of swam over to find him, and they're basically just like, "Hey, like, it's miserable over there. Like, we're having the same problems, and like everything's awful." And it's there that they like, oh, everyone refers to it as Camp Nightmare, which I always like. I like when they kind of say it's stupid, but I like when like movies and books say the name of it. I think it's funny. So they're like, oh, this night moon. This is Camp Nightmare kind of deal. They kind of warn them. They start making a plan of maybe how they're going to get away and get the girl to get out of there as well before anything else happens to them. And then, so, Billy's like, okay, like, I need to call my parents. Because with this as well, they've been told to write letters every day to the parents, and he hasn't heard anything back. So he's just kind of like, okay, I got to go to the call. And he goes to the payphone, and he realizes that it's not real. It's plastic. And then, he's just like, oh, I can't. Like, something really weird's going on here. I think for a bit then, they just have some more camp stuff. Like, kind of go on. Nothing really happens for a bit. And he's just kind of this naturally uneasy, but he's trying to enjoy himself. And, like, he doesn't trust Larry or Al. He hasn't heard from, like, again, people are denying Roger and Mike's existence. And, Colin's starting to get a bit better. He also then tries to go mail a letter, and he finds all of the letters and realizes that they've been holding them, even though they tell him to write every day, they are not mailing the letters out. So he's just like, what is going on in this camp? And then the next day, Colin and Jay are supposed to go on a hike. So it's kind of a random group thing. Like, Billy's on the hike, so they're gone, and they basically never come back. So he kind of, again, they just kind of disappear. And after dinner, he goes back to the bunk. All of their stuff is gone. And Larry again is just like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Like, who are these people? At this point, he has some new bunkmates named Tom and Chris, who move in, and they're just like, yeah, we were told to come here. Like, bunk's empty and stuff. So he's just like, this is so weird again. Like, people joining midway through. Everyone that I started this bunk with is now gone, and no one seems to remember who they were. He hasn't found out a way to get out yet, but he still knows the girls are kind of having similar struggles over at their camp. At this point, they are all supposed to go on a canoe trip. So he goes with Chris and Tom, his new bunkmates, and Larry. At one point, Larry kind of stands up and falls into the water, and doesn't come up right away. So Billy dives in to kind of save him and pulls him out of the water. When he looks around, Tom and Chris are gone. They never come back. They were in the book for a very short period of time, but they too vanish down the water, and they're gone. At this point, I don't even know what word I wrote here. Yeah, so basically, again, he saves Larry. Uncle Al doesn't really care about any of this. He's kind of does kind of come forward about stuff, and like, just nothing's happened. He mentions that the two guys also haven't come back. He doesn't care. And then they kind of wake up and they're planning a hunt. So they give Billy a gun, and like, everyone's kind of dressed up and they're ready to hunt. And it turns out that they found out that the two girls, whatever their names are, Deborah and Dory, I think, have escaped the girls' camp, and they're going to hunt for them. So Billy's just like, what is going on now? And he's given the gun, and he's told, like, oh, like, kind of shoot them on sight. And Billy refuses, and Uncle, like, we're not going to kill them. And Uncle Al's like, well, it's not a real gun. It's just a tranquilizer, and like, we got to bring him back and bring him safe. And basically, he refuses, and he holds the gun up to Uncle Al, and he's like, I won't do it. Get away from me. And I can't remember if it's in the episode of the book, but I'm pretty sure he shoots him with it, kind of in the arm, and Uncle Al just kind of breaks out laughing, and he's just like, "Oh, he did it! He passed!" And it turns out that this is all an elaborate test, and it was a hoax. It's kind of the big twist of the story. So all of the friends kind of start coming out of the woods, and his parents are there as well, and like, you know, all the friends, Jay, Mike, Colin, they're all fine. The girls are there as well, and it turns out that Billy's parents are scientists who are going to study another world, and they had to, for Billy to be able to go, he had to pass a test to see how he would handle it. So again, they had him just like, I can't remember the exact test, but it's just like, I know, like, him not going to the forbidden bunk so that he would respect authority and not, like, kind of put himself into dangerous situations like that. Saving Larry showed his bravery by diving into the water. By refusing to hunt the girls showed that he would stand up if you know, the person in charge was wrong, or he felt it was wrong. He wouldn't just blindly follow, which honestly is a pretty cool test. Like, it's a pretty good way to I mean, psychologically you wouldn't do this to somebody, but like, I get how they would use this as tests. And then they drop the last plot twist where the planet they're going to look at is Earth. In the episode, it flashes up and shows Earth, and that's the big final twist. So I know, in listening to some other people's videos of this, they think the twist is kind of lame. I loved this twist as a kid. I thought it was, didn't suspect it at all. I thought it was really cool. And I know, like Twilight Zone and stuff had done it, but obviously when I read this book, I had not seen any of those episodes, so it was completely new to me, and I thought it was such a cool twist. You then could go back, and I wrote some of them down when I was kind of going through, but they just slightly changed kind of the names and like how you would refer to something throughout. So it talks like when they're driving there, they have like the red hills and yellow skies, which again, you could have some red hills and yellow skies, but usually, we have more kind of like green hills and blue skies. So it's just one of those things that's like, it's close enough that like, yeah, you could see it, right? Like there are some areas where certain kind of copper comes through and you get some reddish hills. Like I'm from Canada, out east. There's famously some places like that. The yellow sky, just if the sun's kind of setting a certain way, it can really make that color, but not typically what you would use. They also talk about prairie cats and prairie wolves, which again are similar enough to Earth, but it's not usually the way you define them. I think we do actually have prairie wolves, but they talk about the prairie cat and all that. Again, talking about the red rocks, which do exist, but again, just something you don't see as often. And then they also talk about something called tree bears, and the big one is they're playing scratch ball, which is basically baseball but slightly different. And so this one's kind of a cool reread, and there's more examples, and they're all things that could exist, but they kind of lead you to know that the world is just slightly different. It's not quite the same. And obviously in the show it looks the exact same because it is Earth. So you don't kind of get those hints there, which I like about the book a bit more. But yeah, I always liked this twist. Going into that, like things I like and dislike about the book. For the most part, I like everything about this book. Spoiler alert, this was one of my favorites as a kid. I used to read this one constantly, and again, as you can tell, I need notes to remember what happens now, but as my mind is bad. And I read this book again like a month ago for this review because I had some time. I'm actually almost caught up in reviews to where I've read, so I gotta get on that. But I always liked it. I like the idea of kind of, camp can be a very scary experience for kids who are not used to going away or a little more introverted. So it's kind of like a real fear there where you're not fitting in, and like, injuries do happen, like getting hit with a baseball or getting bit by a snake, like, wild animals, like they're all realistic fears, which I like. Like there's nothing other than them, again, living on different planets. There's nothing supernatural about this book, which I like. Like they have Saber, who doesn't turn out to be real, but that's about it. So this book is a very, very, to me, kind of real horror one, which I really appreciate. That being said, this book is getting an S from me. Yeah, I mean, from the ones I remember from being a kid, I don't think I think this was my favorite as a kid. I'm trying to remember because I used to read. Maybe I just liked the camp ones, but I remember reading Camp Jelly Jam a lot, but I don't remember anything about it. So I'm excited to get to that one. But from ones I remember, this is high up on the list. I just think it's great. I think the whole camp atmosphere is a great place for scares. I think it's building well where you don't trust anyone, but you don't quite know what's going on. I think the twist at the end where it was all test was great. I think the Earth extra twist was great. It doesn't take anything away from the story. It gave me a reason to reread it pretty quickly after to kind of see if I could tell that it was an Earth. I remember as a kid, and kind of like that one that like once you know the twist, you can go back and kind of see how people are acting. So it's a really cool one. As for the cover, again, it's got this creepy thing. The only thing I would say about it, right, is that like this monster doesn't exist. Like to me, it's supposed to kind of be whatever the name of the creature is. It's called Saber. So it's probably supposed to be Saber, although this one has yellow eyes, and it clearly says in the book that it has red eyes. And they had Tent Night, which is when Roger got torn up. So I'm sure I was trying to make a play off that one. So I'd say that's the only downside to it. But like the tent looks great. I love the sky back here. The red and purple is creepy. And again, it when you're looking at it, and it does look a little otherworldly. Again, like our sky can get red and purplish, but like it just makes me feel like that's a hint. That's a different thing. The color scheme is great with this book. So this is going to be an unprecedented first double S. I'm also giving this cover an S. Like I said, I wish it was kind of more in line with what happened in the book. But I'm just not going to hold that against it because I just like this cover so much. Not all of them match exactly what's going on in the book. And again, if you were to spoil the book and just not have the monsters there, then I don't like. What would you have? Just them staying out front of the camp, I guess. So I think it's a really cool cover. I think it draws you in. I think it's a believable enough thing that's what you think is going on that I'm just not going to dock it for it. I like it too much. I like the book too much. But yeah, that's going to do it. Yeah, I know some people don't have this one as high, but this was one of my favorites as a kid. And I think the episode really helps. I think the episode is fantastic as well. All the actors are well cast. Seeing them out kind of... I feel like, too, for the episode, I feel like they're a bit older. Like, I feel like a lot of the episodes, the kids were around 10, and they feel about, like, 12, 13 in this one, which they just felt a little more mature, which was nice. Again, just a bit better acting, too, from the kids. So I think it's just a winner all around. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we're getting more into the stories where I've read them more recently, so hopefully I have to rely on my notes less. Again, I like to talk about all the plot points and kind of remember them in order. But my memory's garbage. I got too much stuff going on to remember exactly what happened in a kid's book. So, and I like to do these one takes. I could break it down and edit it, but that's just not my style. So up next is The Ghost Next Door. Currently, that is the last book I've read, and it was the first book I've read that I don't remember mostly what happens. Ones like Monster Blood I'd kind of forgot. Mummy's Tomb I'd kind of forgot a bit of what happened, but I knew the general story. I knew the endings. So, yeah, I think it'll be interesting to talk about that one, and kind of, it's the first one. I'm not going to really have too much of a perspective of what I liked about it as a kid, which, we'll see if that helps it, taking it in kind of fresh eyes, or hurts it, because I'm not going to have as big a wow factor, because obviously I'm an adult and can guess what's going to happen in a bunch of these stories nowadays. But we'll get to that one. I'll get reading some more so we can keep these up. Still a lot more to go. There's 62 books in the original one, so we're only coming up about a sixth of the way through. So
Thanks for watching. Please click to check out my other videos, like and subscribe, and come by Twitch under Floyd Mason to join my live streams.